Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to an all new World of Warships gameplay today on our channel. In this episode we shall be featuring our Tier 5 Russian destroyer, known as the Gnevny, and we are not alone today in this Tier 5 domination match on the map Strait. We're joined by our buddy Xenopredator in the American equivalent to our own ship, known as the Nicholas. The focus of today's video is going to be on our employment of the Gnevny, why I enjoy it so much, and potentially this may inspire those of you who are interested in getting it to push for the ship a little bit faster, and indeed you may pick up some tactics you can employ on the way, and for those of you who didn't enjoy the ship, this may re-encourage you to play it once again and try a different approach. But let's talk about our tactics. So we're starting off in the northwestern corner of the map. Obviously this is a domination game type, capturing flags is going to win, or at least that is the incentive, so we're going to make a play for A. We're going to make the play alongside our buddy Xenopredator, and we're going to use our speed as our main strength here. Our intention will be to get into A, then deploy our smokescreen because our concealment will let us down if we don't. So our top speed is 38 knots. This is without a speed boost. And you're going to see off to our starboard side, very gradually creeping into the screen, that Xenopredator in his Nicholas is using a speed boost to just slightly outrun us. So there's a differential in the top speed of the Gnevny versus other destroyers at its tier straight away. It's a very fast ship. As we make our way towards A, however, what we have to keep in mind is that our concealment is our weak point. We are detected by sea at 7 km and by air at 3.6 km. There's no carriers in this match, so we don't have to worry about that second value. But a 7 km detectability by sea means that the enemy destroyer, in the form of the Kamikaze R, who is going to be making a play for A as well, is going to spot us well before we spot them, with their detectability being at 6.1 km if I remember correctly. But that's where our smoke comes in, and we'll employ that to conceal ourselves whilst we capture A. So we have to use our resources a little bit, whereas the likes of the Kamikaze may not over the course of a game have to use up their smoke as much, or they can save it for other tactics. But anyway, gesticulating away, we move into A, the Kamikaze gets spotted by myself and Xeno, and we start to park up on a broadside here, as the Kamikaze prepares a high explosive barrage for our ship. Here it comes, and we set up our smoke. We take a bit of damage, but we've got 13,900 health, so we can take a few hits. We've got the greatest amount of health at our tier for a destroyer. And now we start to reverse and turn our aft towards the Kamikaze slightly, just in case they've sent a torpedo barrage into our smokescreen. We need to be prepared for that. Fortunately, they sent it after Xeno instead of us. So we fired off some high explosives there to try and push the Kamikaze away and do some damage. But now we have a Königsberg coming charging in. Let's talk about our guns. We have 4 single-firing 130mm cannon turrets. These can do a lot of damage, whether it be high explosive, where maximum damage of 1,600 per citadel, and an 8% fire chance. And with the high explosive power available, incapacitations and fires as a result are going to be frequent. We've already broken one gun temporarily, and we set a fire. Unfortunately it was put out because of the repair tool on the Königsberg. But as they turn broadside to fire torpedoes at us, or our smokescreen, let's switch to armour piercing. With 2,500 maximum damage per citadel, that means light cruisers or lightly armoured ones are going to be torn apart by us when we get to distances of 6 to 7 km away from them and decreasing, because the penetration power of your armour piercing shells is pretty impressive, even against more heavily armoured cruisers and even against lighter armour portions of battleships you can encounter. You can tear chunks out of them at distances of 4 to 5 km. But regardless, we make our way out our smokescreen, having captured A now, and we did that in good time, anticipating torpedoes coming from the Königsberg, which we'll get short sight of very second. There they are, and they're about to disappear. As we make our way away from A, and we set a fire on another enemy Königsberg hugging the northern edge of the map, we now switch to light cruiser mode or skirmisher mode. We don't want to get involved, and we can use the 11.9 km range of our turrets to great effect here, causing a fire and an incapacitation over 2 salvos. And with our 870 meters per second muzzle velocity, regardless of either shell type we fire, this means that at extreme ranges, for our guns, we've still got a good chance of hitting if we provide a little bit of predictive lead. And our maximum dispersion with the dispersion upgrade is 97 meters, so our guns are reasonably accurate. And that means we can continue to dump the rounds in and speed around the edge of the map. Well, not really the edge of the map, I should say. Speed around at the edge of our range and become a nuisance for enemy cruisers. And we can see here the Königsberg didn't provide enough lead because of our speed, and we dodged their fire. But let's come back to our manoeuvrability as we now make a turn towards B. There are some downsides to our manoeuvrability. The main ones come in the form of our rudder shift time, and on top of that our minimum turn circle radius. Our rudder shift time is 4.4 seconds. This is quite long for a destroyer, and what this essentially means is that shifting from one side of your rudder to the other to dodge torpedoes in particular is a very hazardous thing to do, especially at closer ranges. If you don't spot the torpedoes thanks to your friendlies, alternatively you don't try to anticipate the torpedoes coming towards you, and we'll see how we anticipate some torpedoes or potential torpedoes a little bit later. Torpedoes can be the bane of your existence. Odd saying that for a destroyer, but it rings true in my experience for this ship. And with our minimum turn circle radius being 610 metres, this ship takes a long time to turn around, which means you've really got to think about what you're doing. And on top of that, if we come back to our guns now, it takes them 36 seconds to turn 180 degrees. So this really does feel like you're actually sailing in a cruiser at times rather than a destroyer, because you have to be quite predictive on the path you want to take, making sure to provide yourself enough room to turn the ship, especially in close encounter engagements. Turning the ship between islands can be a bit of a nightmare, and knowing which way to point your guns, because with that long turn time, if you're not pointing them the right way, you can take a lot of damage and not give enough back in return, compared to what you could have potentially done. Now here we decided to pull away from the Gnevny and the Kirov, making their way, it would seem, towards B. Well, at least the Kirov is on the enemy team, the Gnevny's making their way up towards A. In the meantime, A is being recaptured by the enemy team in the form of the Kamikaze, we would assume. We're firing up some shots towards the enemy Koenig, up on the northern border of the map. Again, just harassing them at range, doing little bits of damage, hoping to score a fire. We're not going to be fortunate enough to do so, but that's our intention. And we're gradually charging in between A and B. We're actually going to try and provide a screen for our friendly cruiser, who is off towards our bow, not on screen at the moment. And we effectively do so, grabbing the attention of the Gnevny for a salvo. And the Kirov, in the meantime, seems to be focused on our friendly cruiser once again. Obviously we're not detected at the moment, so we're not providing that cover. But we're going to try and get a little bit closer to the Kirov. Because remember, we citadeled the Königsberg from earlier as they made their way into A because of the power of our armour piercing and the light armour of that cruiser, and the Kirov, in a very similar fashion, is very lightly armoured. Which means if they turn broadside onto us, our armour piercing is going to tear them to shreds. So we get a little bit closer here. Now what we want to do is encourage the Kirov to turn broadside to open fire at us. i.e. with all of their guns, not just the ones located on the bow, but also the singular triple turret on the rear. We deploy our smoke screen as well to make it harder for the Kirov. They've got to guess, and this Kirov player, to their credit, is accurate in guessing where we are in the smoke. But as they turn broadside, we dump a first salvo of armour piercing in, 2 citadels, 6,900 damage off. We dump in some more, penetrating for 2,475, a little bit too high for citadels, and now the Kirov is reacting to the damage we dealt to them by turning back towards us, i.e. turning their bow. But with the Kirov being a very large ship and now creeping towards us, we fire off our torpedoes. And let's talk about them whilst they're travelling very quickly to the Kirov. They go pretty fast, 65 knots, but they've only got a range, sadly, of 4 kilometres, which means your torpedoes are not going to be your primary focus. But as that Kirov tries to turn out the way of one of them, they take it and get destroyed. Because our maximum damage of our torpedoes is 14,400, joint top with the torpedoes of a Minakaze, i.e. your Japanese equivalent. Which means in close encounters, if you can time it right, your torpedoes are going to do a lot of damage. And you have 2 triple torpedo tubes which reload at a rate of a reload every 70 seconds. So you need to make your torpedoes count, and having the ability to deploy 6 of them means that you can tear apart very high health battleships pretty easily if you get all the torpedoes to land. And that's our next focus, an enemy Kaiser. Now, it was not originally our intention to take on the Kaiser, we just wanted to creep into B, because an opportunity has opened up, and the enemy fleet is gradually crumbling. But unfortunately, our detectability is going to let us down, and we need to react to that problem. As we can see on the minimap in the bottom right hand corner of our screen, the Kaiser is creeping towards us, we're trying to outrun it with our speed boost. It's just not going to happen. Even if we did have a camouflage on this ship, we would be cutting it incredibly close. And that's something you need to try and remember. That you need to time your runs between different portions of the map and which way your opponents are going, so that way you can stay concealed if you want to be concealed in the Gnevny. It's not a case of that you can just recklessly make your way around the map and just assume I'm a destroyer, I'll be concealed regardless. So we decide instead, noticing the Kaiser is so engrossed in taking our battleships on the northwestern corner of the map, that we're going to try and take them out with torpedoes. because they do a lot of damage as we've already seen. But we need to get nice and close, and with our speed boost active we can do that, pushing above 38 knots, above 39 knots, above 40 knots. Yep, we can do that. Gnevny can do it. 40.4 knots. Alright, let's get the angle ready. Aim down the port hand side with our 2 sets of torpedoes. Here we go. Kamikaze, you're not preventing your friend from dying. Sorry sir, not today. And that's all 6 hitting the mark. 5 of them were required to take out the Kaiser. Nice load of damage put in there. And now let's make our way towards the Kamikaze. But let's slow down. Because remember what we said earlier about our manoeuvrability. It's not great in terms of our rudder shift time and our turn circle radius. We're anticipating that the Kamikaze would fire torpedoes at us. If we had been a little bit more aggressive, we could have tried to have finished them off, but we played it safe just in case. Unfortunately for us, our friendly New York was watching and they took out the Kamikaze for us. So that's why we're trying to anticipate the torpedoes, and why managing your speed in the Gnevny, because you can have a lot of it at given portions of time, is a good idea, because you don't want to come charging around a corner into torpedoes, alternatively charge towards a set and be unable to get out the way in time. So do you have any other points to think about in this ship? Well, whilst we go to capture A, we're going to assist our friendly Koenig in doing so, and then try and make our way to B to finish off the match. Let's talk about the health and the armour of this ship. With your 13,900 health, you can afford to take some hits. You've got the highest health of destroyer at your tier, and your armour profile is pretty interesting. Your minimum armour is 10mm, your maximum is 13mm, which means if you're hit on a broadside by armour piercing, it's got a very high chance of over penetrating. But if you're travelling bow on or aft on towards an incoming shell, there's a bit of an issue. Look how long the ship is. Its profile's pretty long, and what this means is if the shell does not ricochet off the bow, for example, or it comes in via the aft, it has the ability to actually end up just penetrating rather than over penetrating through the centre of the ship, i.e. from the full length profile. And this means you can actually take quite a lot of damage from armour piercing if your foe knows what they're doing. But at the same time, this also means due to your large profile, you are very susceptible to high explosive damage, i.e. multiple regions of the ship can be blackened and there'll still be some bits which are as clear as daytime. As a result, be prepared to try and avoid being hit wherever possible across the whole of your ship. Just try and focus your opponent's fire towards, say, your aft, or alternatively towards your bow. Because if they can get multiple shots all over your ship, you're always going to take the maximum damage. Compared to smaller ships, that is. But beyond that, I don't think there's any other statistics we really need to cover. We've done the torpedoes, we've done the artillery, we've done the manoeuvrability, the concealment, and the overall health pool. And here, whilst we do charge towards B, we don't have a speed boost unfortunately, we're never going to get there in time to capture it. As we're going to see, with the New York and very low health, we decide to try and be cheeky and creep over there and pinch the kill, as they've only got 4,580, but even that is not going to be possible, with Xeno Predator making his way towards the New York, and our friendly Miyogi harassing it from its aft as well. But we'll try anyway nonetheless. We picked up quite a few ribbons by the looks of things in the top right corner of our screen. And you can do that in the Gnevny. It's not a case of it's a one-trick pony. It is a destroyer at the end of the day, which means it has torpedoes and artillery. On top of that, it can be used as a light cruiser in the interim, as we have seen. The New York's about to go down. There she goes. With that, game's over. Time for us to take a look at the post-game stats. With the victory, we managed to pick up 317,832 silver credits, 9,819 experience. I can promise you folks that's not a standard earning for the Gnevny. Don't rush to buy the ship because of that number. I believe it was because of the 1 year anniversary of World of Warships no longer being in beta. Correct me if I'm wrong. And as a result, I think there was a plus 300% addition to the amount of XP you got for the first win of a ship for the day I recorded this on. On top of that, we also picked up a devastating strike achievement for destroying an enemy ship with a single artillery salvo, torpedo salvo, or aircraft attack by causing damage to over 50% of the destroyed ship's normal HP. As you've probably guessed, that was on the enemy Kaiser with the torpedoes. In terms of our battle performance, we dealt 86,716 HP of damage, including 64 artillery shell hits, 6 torpedo hits, 4 incapacitations, 2 enemy ships destroyed, 2 fires set, 5 floods caused, 3 citadel hits, 1 base completely captured by ourselves, and 1 assisted capture. Looking at the team scores, we can see that we came first in terms of base XP earned, picking up 2,182. Now by no means did we carry our team. I would gesture that the reason we came top of our team by a slightly significant margin was because of the base capture and the assisted base capture. But on top of that, we have to consider that we made the Gnevny work for our team, whereby we used all of the assets available to the ship to do as much as possible in terms of taking bases or doing damage to enemy ships. Looking at our detailed report, we can immediately confirm that a large chunk of our base experience compared to the rest of our teammates would have been due to our capture work, whereby we picked up 106 of the 119 capture points that our team managed to pick up over the course of the game. The other 13 most likely going to our friendly battleship who crept into A with us when we captured it for a second time. The other item to note here is in terms of our torpedo damage, 53,712, well over half of the total damage we caused, and forming just shy of a 2-to-1 ratio against our main battery damage of 29,741. Now the numbers themselves are nothing spectacular, but what this goes to show is that whilst destroyers in the Russian line usually get categorised as ships that have artillery pieces rather than torpedo tubes, given the right circumstances, such as the Kirov that drifted towards us and the Kaiser that was completely oblivious to our presence, you can make the torpedoes on Russian destroyers work, such as those on the Gnevny, and do a lot of damage, just as much, or in this case, more than what you can do with your artillery pieces. Coming on to the credits and experience we earned, we can see that after deductions we walked away with 306,992 silver credits, and thanks to the plus 200% bonus for the first win of the day, as part of the 1 year anniversary of World Warships, we walked away with that 9,819 experience. Our captain would have been most pleased by this. In conclusion, I personally enjoy the Gnevny as much as I do, because this is a ship that requires you to use all of your assets in order to enjoy it. At its core it is a destroyer, but at times, especially with its 130mm cannon turrets, this can feel like a very light cruiser, whereby, at the start of a game in particular, you can sit amongst your allies and harass the enemy fleet, causing them to break up their formations and eventually provide you with the opportunities you need to get a little bit closer to use your armour piercing, or to get extremely close in order to use your short range torpedoes and mess everything up. But do remember this ship does have a number of downsides. The overall feel of this being a very light cruiser is emphasised in the form of its manoeuvrability. It is fast but not the best turner, and its rudder shift can let it down in tight spaces, where it be against torpedo streams, alternatively trying to negotiate tight land masses. And on top of this, from time to time, it can really feel as though this ship is going to get preyed on due to its size and therefore its vulnerability to fire from high explosive and even on occasion armour piercing. And so I've been TX141, and if you've enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and fair seas.